Trust me, it brings me no pleasure to say that Yellowstone has crashed and burned so far that I can't even believe this second part of the 5th season, which marks the end of the series, is the same Yellowstone we've been watching this entire time. Remember back when you had some trust for Taylor Sheridan, the creator of Yellowstone? I remember I did. I remember I could count on this series for giving us great characters, exciting stories, incredible writing, just down-to-earth, heartwarming moments. It's all out the window here. I don't know, he was just mentally not in it anymore, if he gave up on this. Whatever it is, this was not Yellowstone, what we've been watching. And I wouldn't really have watched this series if it weren't for VidAngel. VidAngel does such a great job at eliminating and filtering a lot of the scenes you really don't want to see. Because, I mean, if you watch the series, you could definitely agree that they have some really graphic content in here of pretty much every nature. And a lot of that kind of stuff I don't want to see. So if you do end up investing in Yellowstone, I recommend checking out VidAngel or just finding a way to skip through this stuff yourself, because it's definitely, it's in there way too much. But anyways, if I had just a few words to use to describe this last part of the 5th season, I would say it's wasted time and it's unending nonsense. I thought that we would be ending this series on a high note, that all of these insane story arcs would finally come to an exciting, impactful conclusion. That was not the case at all. We're either following random horse shows, we see Casey and his family develop and refurbish a new house, we follow that for quite some time. We spend a lot of time at drunken parties where nothing really happens. I mean, people are drunk, they're drinking, and they're at a party, and they're at a bar. We see Beth and Rip at a lot of bars. Okay, nice. Doesn't forward the story at all. It's just kind of wasted time. We're just here to hang out, I guess. Not to mention, we get a lot of camping. Okay, we get some camping. We get some camping in a new setting by the 4-6 Ranch. I guess that's something. Although all this 4-6 Ranch stuff really goes out the window, and by the end of the series, it didn't really seem to matter at all. Not sure what happened with that storyline exactly. I'd say about 70% of the second half of the concluding season was filler, which I never imagined that'd be the case. And even worse yet, the most important character in all of Yellowstone, John Dutton, played by the infamous Kevin Costner, is gone. I understand he's working on, the Horizon series, but this show, as I expected, could not function without him. John Dutton was the glue that kept everything together, and he was the head of the chicken that this show was missing, and it showed. And we follow this story as if like a chicken doesn't have his head, and he's just wandering around bumping into the walls. None of these characters really seem to know what to do with themselves after John Dutton passed. The biggest character, we've been following him ever since the beginning. He's just abruptly dead right at the beginning of the second part. We see Beth, she's going to visit him because she has a bad feeling, and a bunch of cops are outside the house. I guess supposedly he offed himself. Of course he didn't do it. Only the family members really knew him well enough to know he would never do that. Really abrupt, strange ending for that character. And worst yet, we won't see Kevin Costner at all in any of this. We get weird flashbacks that literally show the assassination, but you don't, it's literally just a guy. It's not Kevin Costner. Very strange. It didn't work. It didn't work at all. No matter how hard they tried, no matter how many reactions we got from Beth, Casey, Jimmy, Rip, it did not have the punch because Kevin Costner wasn't there. We didn't see him get to go out gloriously. We didn't get to hear his last words. We didn't get to see Kevin Costner. It just didn't work. And this was a flaw that followed through all 6 episodes. And no matter how tired I was of just continually seeing everyone crying about it, it didn't end. And trust me, I really liked Kevin Costner. I mean, I have a lot of respect for that actor. He's a great actor and definitely plays a lot of important roles for a lot of people growing up, looking up to him as a strong male role model through his characters he plays. Certainly not all of them, but there was things to respect about John Dutton. But they exhausted this right off the bat. And it's not just John Dutton that this happens to. Kobe, he was one of the cowboys. He was back home, and he died trying to help out Carter, one of the younger ranch hands that Beth and Rip sort of adopt in a way. He dies, a horse kicks him, and they overplay his death as well. They just keep talking about him now, and there's wallowing from him. And this was simply just to keep things moving, I think. I don't know. It just didn't seem like this was necessary at all for this to happen, and it just didn't make much sense. All of this wallowing and pity, it eventually dawns on the Dutton family, that they've lost too. They are at the lowest point they've ever been in the entire series. They are literally losing the ranch, and they're at a point where they're just selling everything off. They're auctioning off the horses, the steer. Everything that they built is literally crumbling, and there is no hope in sight in the minds of these characters. Beth, she tries workshopping some ideas, but whatever happens, it's all conversational, and we don't see that exciting action. We don't see the exciting buildup of a huge event that's about to happen. There's none of that here. We are watching these characters we really like and we've enjoyed watching all this time just crumble into depression, crumble into little survivors. It's not fun to watch at all, and that's no way to end a series. I mean, Beth said it herself when she says all they're doing is buying time for the ranch to go, and that's what's happening here. They're just enjoying the ranch as long as they can now. And that's no fun. It's no fun following that, and it's simply just sad. They try coming up with some different scenarios to fix this, which don't end up working, but we just don't have that same kind of drive and the same sort of motivation and momentum that had kept this series running this whole time. Something else that really just didn't work for the end here was that it had awkward and confusing time jumps too. Out of nowhere, we are 6 weeks earlier, then we're in the present time, then 30 minutes later, we're back to 6 weeks earlier again to when John Dutton was assassinated. They jump back and forth, and they don't make it clear at all. So it was really confusing to understand where exactly we were when we were watching it, and I bet you probably felt the same way if you saw this, the ending yourself. Another thing is, I am sick and tired of this weird modern Hollywood trope that we keep seeing, where we glorify a character, normally a female character, for doing something completely immoral as a protagonist. In what way is it that any character that you follow, you are happy that they did something terrible and something evil? I'm not. It's not a cool thing to see, especially from a protagonist especially. Beth finally does what we've been waiting to see this whole series. She kills Jamie, and it's really grim when she does it. This whole show, we've been seeing her bully him, upset with him, trying to ruin him, and finally she does it. She follows through with it because her justification is that those were her last words to John before he died. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. And it's really grim what happens. She comes to his house and she starts beating the piss out of him. He turns on her and they start fighting each other. And then he starts to, get close to putting her to sleep. Rip saves the day, and then she finally does the deed and he's dead. We were supposed to be happy about that, but all this turmoil, negative energy was coming from her, and throughout the whole series, he tried to make things right by her. I understand that he went pretty much full bad guy this last season, but before that, he tried to be a helpful guy, and he just couldn't get any slack from her at all, which really irritated me, and it especially irritated me what happened in this in the final episode when she took care of him. I understand that he's made a lot of bad mistakes, and a lot of his motives sort of went in a different direction than the ranch through most of the show. But a lot of the time he was trying to help the ranch, obviously, and he was trying to help his father, even though his father pretty much thought he was a disappointment the entire time and didn't really want him in his life. And of course, Beth hated him. But he still tried to be helpful for the ranch up until the last season. What particularly irritated me about the second part was they made him absolutely and completely incompetent. He's an empty shell of who he was in the very beginning. He doesn't know what to do. He's hopeless. He's weak. He's feeble. He wanders around with his tail in between his legs the entire time, and it's really hard to watch. And to conclude, simply everything was under par. Nothing was to the quality that it was before. The momentum was gone, and without John Dutton there wasn't a purpose for anything to be happening. And it was so clearly exhibited through the lack of direction in the second part of the final season. So I was really disappointed. I wanted this to conclude strong. I wanted to get a respectable death from John Dutton, to say the least, which I don't think that's what we got. And I wanted to possibly see this story followed through the 4-6 ranch like there's been rumors about, but that I don't think that's going to happen. It doesn't seem to end that way. Everyone kind of goes off in their own path, and that's the end of the show. That's the end of Yellowstone. Brings me no pleasure to say it. It sucked. It was awful. And I would love to know what you thought about it, though. Did you think Yellowstone ended so terribly as I did? I've heard many times that that they thought it was awful. and I completely agree. But maybe I'd like to hear your side of the story. So please let me know in the comments below if you think that Yellowstone can be saved, if it was not as bad as I've been saying as it is, because I would love to hear another perspective. Anyways, if you liked what I had to say today, please make sure to leave me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate your support and your time. If you haven't yet seen Yellowstone and for whatever reason you wanted to watch this video, I thank you for watching. I thank you for checking it out. If you decide to watch Yellowstone, please make sure to watch it on VidAngel or using some other software, because there is just so much inappropriate content in this series that if it weren't for VidAngel, I would just have to skip over on my own. So please give it a shot. I'm not sponsored by them at all. I just really like the program myself, and I think you would you'd benefit from using it. Anyways, I appreciate your time spent with me. I wish you well, and I'll see you soon.